running for president is unlike anything else. It's not like running for senator or governor or being a business leader or being in the military. There's a level of scrutiny. And of course, in the age in which we live, the scrutiny is different than it's ever been, because on digital, there are no barriers to entry. People can go online and say whatever they want. What often is discussed with these candidates is who's got the record, who's got the charisma, who's got the hang factor, who's got the vulnerabilities in terms of their public record. And all that's not unimportant. Who's got the ideas matters too. And we'll talk a lot together between now and the election about who's got a great chance, whose chances of winning are really definable. But I will say this, what I want to talk to you about today, based on my conversations over years, but also this past week and over the weekend with experienced folks in both parties about running for president. The factor that I think people don't take into account is the ability to withstand the onslaught, to run the gauntlet, to get through the meat grinder, whatever metaphor you want to use. And I think a mistake people are making now when they say, well, so-and-so has this stuff in their background that we know about, leave aside what we don't know. And they say, well, they'll survive it. Maybe that would have killed a candidacy in the past, but they'll survive it because look at what Donald Trump survived. If Donald Trump could survive January 6th and impeachment and the indictments and Access Hollywood, well, if he could survive that, the rules have changed. In the modern era, you can defend yourself using social media. You can change the subject. I think it's a mistake. And I saw this mistake occur on the other side with Bill Clinton. After Bill Clinton survived charges about draft dodging, Jennifer Flowers, impeachment of his own, I heard people say, well, the rules are changed forever. The rules are changed forever because if Bill Clinton could survive that stuff, anybody could. Well, here's what I'm here to tell you. And this applies as I think about, to some extent, J.D. Vance, but certainly as I think about these Democratic presidential prospects. It's not the same to say Bill Clinton could survive it or Donald Trump could survive it and anybody else could survive it. Now, you look at people like Barack Obama and George Bush, they survived stuff too. But there's a certain quality about Bill Clinton and Donald Trump that I've never seen in anybody else I've covered. And the question is, how much can you survive and how do you survive it? And I have studied closely those two guys. Bill Clinton was the first presidential candidate I ever covered full time. I covered Donald Trump as closely as I've ever covered anyone who's run for president, who's been president. And I can't find a great explanation for what's different about them. There's something different about them, but defining it, part of it's tactical. They're able to think about the politics of it in a very complex manner. The coalition politics, their base, the media, the news cycle, what could diffuse the bomb. They're extraordinary at it, but some of it is not explainable. There's no human way to put it out. So I want you to look first at Bill Clinton and certainly not the only controversies he faced, but here are some of the things, kind of a greatest or worst hits of the things Bill Clinton survived that I don't believe most mortal politicians or maybe anyone but Donald Trump could barrel through.
I will start by explaining why I came forward to tell my story about my affair with Governor Bill Clinton. I quite simply was afraid. When I heard Bill describe our relationship as an absolute total lie, I knew what my decision should be.
Who is Jennifer Flowers? You know her.
Oh, yes.
How do you know her? How would you describe your relationship?
Very limited, but until this, friendly, but limited. She was an acquaintance, I would say a friendly acquaintance.
She's a legend and is described in some detail in a supermarket tabloid, which she calls a 12-year affair with you.
That allegation is false.
Today's New York Times raises questions about a real estate venture involving Governor Clinton, his wife Hillary, and the owner of an Arkansas savings and loan.
This week, the Whitewater Special Prosecutor, Mr. Starr, got a federal judge to extend the life of that grand jury looking into the Whitewater case. He says there's extensive evidence of obstruction of justice. If, as you say, there is nothing there, Mr. President, How can so many reputable, respected professionals keep pressing on with this?
Well, that's your characterization, not mine.
Another extraordinary day in Washington as the intern sex scandal involving President Clinton continues to unravel. Again today, with PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat at his side, Clinton denies having a sexual relationship with White House intern Monica Lewinsky, and that he asked her to lie about it to investigators.
And tonight, Monica Lewinsky's attorneys tell us that she has told prosecutors all she knows. They describe what they call a complete account of her relationship with President Clinton.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never.
In the wake of the unprecedented vote against an elected president, Mr. Clinton vows to continue doing the work of the American people.
It's what I've tried to do for 6 years. It's what I intend to do for 2 more. Until the last hour of the last day of my term.
That is a skillful guy. That is a guy who understands. Now, he had around him very skillful people who understood all the same things about the news cycle, who understood the complexities of how to walk through fire. But he did it. He did it. And the people who, so, he had people around him who were called the masters of disaster. He had them in the 92 presidential campaign, people like James Carville, Paul Begala, George Stephanopoulos. He had them in the White House, people like Chris Lahane, Mark Fabiani, others. These folks knew how to be supporting players in these extraordinary Houdini acts, escape acts of survival. But it was Clinton and his instinct for what the traffic would bear. And as I said, after Clinton's presidency, even during it, people said, well, Anybody now in this new age can use the same tools. It's just not the case. And saw the same thing with Donald Trump. I remember the time around the Access Hollywood video coming out and being told by lots of reputable political analysts, political operatives, no way this could be he could survive this. And yet he did. And very similar to Clinton. The breathless reporting about how politically, existentially damaging this was, and then Trump's capacity to respond. Here are those moments.
This 2005 Access Hollywood clip leaked to the Washington Post is blowing up the door on Donald Trump's history of lewd commentary towards some women.
I've never said I'm a perfect person, nor pretended to be someone that I'm not. I've said and done things I regret. And the words released today on this more than a decade-old video are one of them.
You called what you said locker room banter. You described kissing women without consent, grabbing their genitals. That is sexual assault. You bragged that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. Nobody has more respect for women than I do.
Tonight, the historic moment in the House, voting along party lines to impeach President Trump.
He's called it a witch hunt, a coup, a fraud, and a scam.
You're talking about the witch hunt? Is that what you mean? Is that what you're talking about? I hear it's a joke. I haven't watched.
Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States, has vowed not to concede at this point.
Here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
U.S. Capitol has been placed on lockdown as angry protesters surround the building.
He is Donald Trump about to become the first president in our nation's history to be impeached for the second time.
Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. John James, is he a congressman, this guy? Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to start the impeachment of Donald Trump. What the hell did I do? Here we go again. They want to impeach me. This lunatic.
So Trump and Clinton, special cases. Now, when I hear in particular people float as presidential candidates, business leaders or entertainers who or military officials who have never run for public office before. For them, the degree of difficulty is even more. It's not that Trump had never been in politics and therefore anyone in politics could do this and survive the scrutiny. It's that Trump's special, like Clinton, the only two people I've ever covered who can handle this. And as I have, including this past week, talking to people around some of the leading potential presidential candidates, I'm not a gossip monger. I'm not trying to stir things up, make the pot hotter and more bubbly. But I am looking at what we know about each of these folks. All of them have something publicly known. Some have quite a bit. It's rarely discussed now. And in the minds of these candidates and the people around them, there's kind of two schools of thought. One is, well, we've been through it. These allegations about my military record, or these allegations about my past personal life, or these allegations about my business dealings or political controversies, we've been through it. And so it asked and answered. But that's a naive attitude, because you take some of these things, whether they were sort of known or very known, they're in a different context in when somebody's running for president. And then the second school of thought says, yeah, running for president's tough. We need to be ready. But being ready means doing the tough stuff, which presidential campaigns talk about and rarely do well, which is you hire your own opposition research team to go after your record, and you cooperate with them. You don't just let them Google around and use ChatGPT to say, what's controversial about potential candidate X. You hand over documents, you make yourself, your family, your associates available. It's rarely done at the level it needs to be done. And most of these big controversies that come out, unknown to the people around the candidate, and sometimes the candidate doesn't even remember them. Donald Trump, in the case of the Access Hollywood tape, he didn't really, I don't think, have a concrete recollection of the event, but he certainly didn't know it had been recorded. This occurred, between official tapings, but somebody was rolling video and audio and got some of those conversations. So these campaigns, these candidates are looking to enter the race and focus on anything but this. Very unpleasant for either the candidate, candidate's family, for the people around the candidate. Very unpleasant to focus on. But I've started to have the conversations to say, not the only thing I ask, but I've started to have the conversations. What do you know about this? What are you going to do about this? What else is there? And what I'm finding so far is a fair amount of naivete, a fair amount of we've been through it. And the other old standby, Trump and Clinton got through it. We can get through it. What Trump and Clinton walked through was so much worse than anything I've done, speaking as a candidate, or my candidate's done, speaking as a staffer. And I'll say again, if you're not Trump and Clinton, and I don't see anybody out there thinking of running, including J.D. Vance or any of the Democrats, who have that magical ability, who have the capacity to use their sixth sense and their extraordinary understanding of how news works, how information flows, to diffuse situations. It's an incredible case study, one by one. You look at the controversies that have brought down other politicians, whether they're running for president or just in some other office. And I always imagine, what would Clinton do if he were in that situation? What would Trump do? And usually I have a pretty good guess about sort of the route they would take, maybe not the absolute specifics, 1, 2, 3, 4 of what they do, but the level at which you need to play. Because remember, if this stuff happens in the context of a nomination fight, not in a general election, you're going to be gone after by at least 3 groups. You're going to be going after by the media, by the other party, and by people in your own party who want to bring you down. And not a surprise, most of the scrutiny, most of these crucible moments occur for folks who are the front runners or amongst the front runners who have a good chance to be the nomination. People don't waste time dropping opposition research, which is where most of these stories come from, on people who aren't going anywhere. Often when a politician is attacked, they say, well, I must be doing something right, otherwise they wouldn't be coming after me. They don't shoot at you if you're not over the target, is a popular way of saying it these days. It's not always true, but it's generally true in presidential campaigns. Listen up now. If you're 64 years or older, this is important. The Department of Justice recently sued 3 major Medicare brokers for claiming they were unbiased while allegedly pushing people into plans that got them the biggest kickbacks. It's true. So many insurance agents just can't be trusted. but you can't necessarily rely on government resources either. That's why I want you to know about something called Chapter. Chapter was started by people who went through this personally themselves after their own parents were pushed into the wrong Medicare plan by an agent more focused on commissions than on care. Chapter's mission is very simple: to give every American the honest, straightforward Medicare advice they deserve. And here's what makes them different. They're the only Medicare advisor that compares every plan across the country, not just a handful. That saves their clients an average of $1,100 per year. There's no reason not to call. It's quick, it's easy, and they can review your options in under 20 minutes. If you're already in the right plan, they'll tell you that. But if there's a better plan, they'll help you switch. This could be the most important call you make this year. Dial pound 250 and say Chapter Medicare to get peace of mind. Again, that's pound 250 and say Chapter Medicare.